Hello and welcome to the Mirrored Muse podcast, a sanctuary for your soul and a spark for the revolutionary spirit, where our truth is always reflected, our radiance remembered, and our spirit set free. I'm your host, Whitney Amber, and together we're going to journey into the depths of what it means to awaken, embody, and expand as the muse of our own life. Through soulful storytelling, raw reflections, guided practices, and revolutionary conversations, this podcast is here to truly meet you in your own becoming. So, let's take a deep breath, soften our edges. It's time to step into the mirror. This is your invitation to rise. Okay, we're back, and as you can hear, all of life's soundtrack in the background, still in Mallorca, Spain. Walked to the ocean to get some fresh air and use the ocean as my mirror today, as I want to chat through this reintroduction, if you will, for those who already know me, and a new introduction for those who maybe don't know me. So there have been so many different versions of myself up until this point, and that would take a whole series within itself to cover all of the different versions of Whitney. And right now, this is Whitney Amber. This is me. And we are going to go on a journey today to talk through what all has unfolded and how I have arrived to this most authentic version of myself, known as Whitney Amber. So buckle up. I'm gonna take you on a very vulnerable unfolding of life events. Some of these events will have their own episode in the future, but I think it's so important and so timely to walk through all of these different significant phases and steps in my life, because Whitney Amber walking the streets, strolling by the Mediterranean Sea in Mallorca has not just woken up overnight and arrived here. So let's do it. And while we are chatting through these versions, I hope that you can also embrace all of life's sounds in the background, as life doesn't stop for storytelling, does it? So yeah, people will be strolling, babies, birds. The wind, of course, will catch the mic. So let's get into it. All right, I'm going to hold up the mirror. Today's episode feels more like, those mirrors that zoom all the way in, the ones that show you everything that maybe you don't want to see. I feel like that feels like the energy of today's podcast episode. So I may hold my breath a couple times, because I may walk you through some of the things that are not so sexy and not so beautiful maybe in the moment, but now I can absolutely look back and reflect on most of those moments and see the beauty in them. So such is the purpose of life. So I thought it was timely to introduce and or reintroduce myself, because it's just in the last year, I feel like for sure in the last week, I've completely what feels like rebirthed a whole new version of myself, and she feels free. She feels liberated in so many ways. The biggest, to use her voice and express myself, which we talked about in episode 1. And so I was walking to the ocean this morning, and it just hit me of like, oh my God, like, how would I even describe myself to my closest family members? At this point, I have been gone from the U.S., which is my home country, since March 11th, March 10th is when I left. And so I've been gone for 4 months to the day. And a lot has changed. A lot has been released. A lot has been birthed anew. And so I thought, what better time as we are embarking on this podcast to shed some light on this new version of Whitney and how beautiful it is that we allow ourselves to evolve, right? It's a choice. And I've really been leaning into all of the discomfort of evolution, transformation. I think those have been huge, huge themes throughout my entire life. And I thought it was beautiful and very telling whenever I was in Bali back in March. I met with a Balinese healer. His name was Pak Bagus, an angel. And he told me, he was like, Whitney, you carry the energy and the legacy of Kuan Yin, but also you are the phoenix. And I thought, oh my God, yes, I am. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the phoenix, basically death, rebirth is a huge theme surrounding the phoenix. So a lot of death, diving into the fire, the ash, to completely transform and then rise and soar with its wings. And so it's truly the best of both worlds. And I thought, oh my God, I feel that to my core. And as I reflect back over the different phases of my life, how it really feels that way. So just for some background, I had mentioned in episode 1 that I am a twin. So I came into the world as a carbon copy, if you will, sharing the same birthday, somewhat the same identity as someone else who I have essentially navigated all of life's seasons with at the same time, which is so beautiful. And I honestly love being a twin, but that's how I came into the world. And we came in very early. We were very eager to be in this life. So, many weeks premature, we make our entrance, and which was not easy on my mother, or easy on our physical bodies. But we made it with all of the help of our angels. Born in Tennessee, in the States, Knoxville to be exact, home of the volunteers, and born and raised in Jamestown, Tennessee, which is a tiny town north of the state, and spent all my life actually in Tennessee. And I was so full of life growing up. My mom was the absolute best, just letting us dance through life. I hate using the word normal, but had a very normal childhood. And as we were growing up, played sports, the whole thing, and very active. But something that has really stuck with me is dancing. Oh God, I love dancing so much. I loved it as a kid. I love it now. And all of this matters because as I was strolling Mallorca, especially yesterday afternoon, I went to the beach. I was standing by the ocean, and something was just like, Whitney, take up your space and like just dance. Put in your earbuds. People all around, doing their own thing. Why don't you do your own thing and move move with the currents of the water and be the water, become the water, have a little Moana moment, And guys, it's so interesting because I had so much resistance in doing that. My ego had an absolute field day telling me, all these people who were going to watch me, they were not going to watch me. They probably could have cared less if they even seen me. But that's why my ego was just like, oh my God, no, don't do it. That's weird. That's this, that's that, blah, blah, blah. And so I did it, and it felt so liberating. And I thought, oh my God, that's such a core piece of my identity is dance, and not professional dance, not choreographed dance, just movement, just moving the way that my body wants to move. And so I'm noticing here in my Orcas Bay all of these pieces, these core pieces of my identity coming back. I'm Tan Wit. I just made a post on Instagram yesterday. I was like, Tan Wit is back, baby. And she is. And I haven't seen her in years, you guys, since I was a lifeguard. And so I thought, okay, it's time to reintroduce myself, the most authentic version, Whitney Amber. Here we are in the world, the host of The Mirrored Muse, the Mirrored Muse to my core. And so, yeah. So that is what sparked this episode. And growing up in Jamestown, Tennessee, which is in the deep South in America, sure, there is this pressure and expectation to get married early, which I did. Yes, I was married by the time I was 21, and to a lovely, lovely, lovely human being. And that is for sure its own podcast within itself. But what I think is really important to share is there is and was a version of me who was married at a very young age and who navigated the world very differently. We love all the busy streets and the cars. As I see 222 on this license plate passing us, friends. Our angels are with us. And I navigated the world very different. My mind was much more closed. I've always had a spirit of curiosity, but my mind was very small, if you will, and it only navigated the borders of my small town, at the most the borders of the state of Tennessee. That's just it. I couldn't think much bigger outside of that. It was all I had known. And my entire family lives in the small town that I was raised in. They still do. They're still there, and they love it there. They thrive. So that version of me who entered into that lifelong commitment, with that relationship came more layers and more expectations. And what slowly began to, or honestly, what quickly began to happen was, at this time in my life, I was very insecure, didn't know who I was. I had accepted all of the external titles, expectations, messaging floating around me in a very religious atmosphere. And I began to wear those colors and pretend to own them as if they were my own. And because that was accepted, right? And with this mask that I wore, that was painted by other artists outside of myself in colors that maybe I wouldn't have chosen, I slowly began to become someone else, someone who was not deeply embodied, someone who was not most authentic to my core. And I don't think that's right, wrong, or even indifferent. It just is. And I think it happens to most of us as we grow up and navigate the world, especially women. We're told to be nice and to keep the peace, don't rock the boat, and do what's expected, do what's accepted. And that was me. That was who I was. And so that version became very suffocating very quickly, because what I know to be absolutely true is when we're living in a way that is not most authentic, and that is to please a source outside of ourselves, whether that is a husband, whether that is a boyfriend, parents, siblings, family members, just society at large, it becomes very suffocating, because we decide to come to this earth, in this world, to be who we are and to do the thing that we came here to do. And while it's going to take us some life experiences to remember what that mission and purpose is, that's okay. And honestly, I think it adds so much beauty to not just our story, but our life in general. And so this was my first big chapter, was the married version of myself early on. And with this marriage came a divorce. So then here's a new title, a new version of myself that I honestly, it was the most rejected by myself, for sure by others, is to be divorced. So my parents are divorced. They navigated that journey for themselves whenever my sister and I were, I think, seniors in high school. And so when all of that came into our reality, I knew, I was like, okay, there's one thing I don't want to be, and that is divorced. And so in my own personal life and relationship, how that unfolded was, I was in this marriage and I loved this human to my utmost capacity and his family with all of my heart, with all the ability and capability I had at that time. And as I mentioned, I quickly outgrew that. The expiration date came in quickly. And I felt that to my core, but I did not want to accept that. I absolutely refused, actually, to accept that. And how that played out is, over a course of 4 years, I began to fight just to not be divorced. And that is so important to kind of pause on, because I think there's such a stigma surrounding divorce in general, for men and for women. It's not sexy. It's not pretty. I don't think anyone enters into a marriage with the hope or even expectation, even the thought that a divorce would be the end result or outcome of it. I just don't. I really don't think that we think about that. Love doesn't, that's not how love works. And so when I found myself navigating this fight, this refusal to be divorced, it became even more lonely. And I'll never forget looking into the mirror whenever I was, ironic, right? Mirrors have been a theme, you guys, I'm telling you. But I will never forget being in the apartment, looking myself in the mirror after being in this relationship for 9 years, and married for about 4.5. And I did not recognize her. I did not recognize that young woman in the mirror. And I just thought, Whitney, what are you doing? And so then I start to enter into phase 2, which is divorce. And friends, I'm going to tell you, the years that followed that divorce were not pretty. They were not pretty. I mean, I was on a journey of unlearning so much of who I had become and unbecoming all the parts that no longer resonated with me, and really leaning into stepping into that mirror fully. And sometimes I'd step into the mirror, I'd hate it, I'd turn around and refuse to do it again. And then I'd have to come right back and meet myself again, maybe shed another layer. Oof, it was hard to see. It was so hard to see. And all these rules and rigid thinking, I had to slowly let go of. And so that is just another version of myself that I had navigated. And with being divorced, no children were involved, thankfully. I think that just makes it harder. It makes it harder to I think, navigate the concept of love when children are involved, and trying to explain why mom and dad I'm so grateful that was not a part of my story, because I think that would be even more difficult. But then I found myself living, I decided to stay in Nashville, Tennessee. So living in a city by myself, the curiosity for life started to come back in. Still a lot of religion circulated my identity at this point. And so I was trying to navigate my decision to leave the marriage through a religious lens, which just didn't resonate. We got some strong sounds in the background, just confirming it did not resonate. Okay. And so for me, I really started to dive into the beliefs. What do I believe for myself? Where did I come from? During the relationship, we went to church all the time, which is beautiful. I want to be very clear for those who are religious. I'm not at all throwing off on that. I think religion can be beautiful in certain aspects. But I just remember in so many ways I couldn't be small enough. I couldn't be quiet enough. I couldn't dim my light enough. I couldn't be enough in this view of religion, being married, now divorced, now choosing to live in a city as a single woman, navigating her identity for the first time, I think, in my life. And that's when the questions came, and that's when the mirror began to really magnify questions that were not just meaningful, but that were essential for me to really begin to embody and embrace my most authentic self. And I think that we all have different paces for our purpose. Mine took about 9 years, and I don't believe in coincidences. The energy of 9 is the ending of old cycles and the beginning of new ones. So how beautiful is that 9 years post-divorce, stepping into this most authentic version. So yeah, religion was a really big part of how I came into the world and how I navigated my early years and the messiest chapter of my life. And it definitely carries the energy of the phoenix, because it's messy, it's hard, it's hell, let's be honest, to go through. But then to be on the other side, if we really lean into the discomfort and we really lean into the curiosity and love of it all, that is when the phoenix starts to rise. And so, yeah, religion, it never resonated. And I always felt the need this deep desire to my core to be near source energy, to be near the Creator, to talk about life in a way that made me feel alive and might carry the energy of aliveness to the hearts of others. And I think I'm just now starting to really feel that. And so it was I would say after my divorce, I didn't step back into a church for many, many years. And feeling this need to explain to my family and everyone around me why I no longer wanted, I just did not have the desire to go to church. And I didn't have a full explanation why, other than I just don't, and that was really difficult and confusing for them, even for me, for a while. So then as I started to navigate life and debunk this whole concept of love, what is this? What does it feel like? How have I experienced it up until now? How do I want to experience it in the future? Does it really exist in an expansive type of way, a way that allows both humans in a romantic relationship to take up their space individually and collectively and together? And what I know now is yes. So after the divorce, like I said, I chose to stay in Nashville. I made friends quickly. I went back to grad school, studied speech-language pathology for a while. Communication has always been a huge theme in my life. So, of course, I studied that for about a year. Loved it so much. It just resonated. It came naturally to me. And then right when I thought I was going to fully pursue that career, I noticed that the next theme circulating was leadership. So I go to grad school at Belmont studying strategic communication and organizational leadership. And so now I'm stepping into new questions around leading. Do I feel like I'm leading my own life? What is a leader? What does that look like for me? What does that look like outside of me? And meeting all kinds of beautiful humans, hearing their perspectives and their own life stories. So this new version of myself at that point was navigating grad school, working full time, and just trying to make ends meet. So after my divorce, I completely started over, $0 in the account, and just build. And that matters. I will bring that full circle a little bit later. But just building, I was in such build mode. Build and learn and absorb. I could not absorb enough information. Again, this external messaging, I'm just soaking it up like a sponge all around me. And I found myself around so many wise people. And just receiving the information, leaning into it. Does it resonate for me? Does it not? And starting to learn that I can listen, I can hear so many different perspectives, but I have the choice and the free will to choose what I keep for myself and what resonates for myself. So that's when the switch began to happen. The evolution really started to turn up, in the sense that I slowly started taking back my power. Not control, friends. Control is a complete illusion. But my power, I started to take it back. And fast forward to today, which is June 10th, 2025, sitting in Mallorca, Spain, every single version of myself, the version who was attached and the version of me who confused that attachment for love, the version of myself who truly thought my worth was tied up in productivity and titles and every kind of title, the last name, married and or maiden, right, for women, title of the acronyms before and after my name, the master's degree that mattered to me. As a first generation college grad, I had this goal of achieving a master's degree, which I got, but I tied my worth in that, and everything that came with the beautiful marriage that I had. There was a lot of material things that I tied my worth in that I did not realize then. But very quickly, once I decided to leave that situation, I realized, who am I without all of this? Who is Whitney? Who is she? Who does she want to be? Who does she want to become? And the next versions after that is consultant Whitney, that, successful Whitney. Then consultant Whitney and successful Whitney were the same. I thought that was success. And so then navigating, okay, wait a second, maybe that doesn't feel successful to me. So who is successful Whitney? How does that feel? How does she show up in the world? How does she speak? How does she move? How does she live? How does she love? And friends, what I can tell you is every single version of Whitney that has existed up until now, in this very, very moment that I stand here staring into the Mediterranean Sea, feeling the breeze in my hair, oh my God, and seeing my tan skin as I reclaim the core parts of Whitney back, as I call them back, as I choose to keep them because they are most authentic to me. All the rest of the versions have completely been laid to rest and alchemized. And a whole other topic for another day is going to be travel for me as complete and utter transcendence and transformation. It is not just vacation. It's anything but a vacation. It's work. It's doing the work. And I have shed and released every version of myself up until this point. And I find it so powerful to be recording this episode today, as I have one thing that has existed in my life from my first marriage up until today, and that is a car. Everything else has been released with so much love. All the clothes, all the possessions, everything that painted this beautiful image and version of who was known as Whitney Allred has been released. And today as we are leading up to the full moon in Cancer, which is tomorrow, I am choosing to release this car, and with so much love and gratitude, this car has held me longer than any relationship, longer than any home, longer than, my God, it's held me longer than anything. It's the one thing I've had consistently in my life that has kept me safe and has brought me to and from seeing my family. It has, my God, this car. It sounds crazy, you guys, but it has truly held me for such a long time, for 12 years. And today I released her with so much love, and I finally let go of everything attached to previous versions of Whitney. And today I'm claiming I am absolutely standing sensual, strong, and spiritual as Whitney Amber. And it feels so good to be able to speak into this phone with all these cars passing and this big dump truck that's about to make a lot of noise. It feels so good to reclaim and be proud of who I am fully, wholeheartedly. And she is spiritual. She is sensual. She is strong. And she's successful. She is successful. She's not a consultant, but she is successful. Because she has absolutely loved every part of her. She has liberated every part of her. And yeah, so this is a little moment of reintroducing myself to you who know me. I'm Whitney Amber, and I am hella spiritual, and I am chased by angel numbers, and I feel so liberated being by the ocean. Never have I ever said that. I've never been a beach girly because I internalized the messages early on at the beach that said, girl, cover your body. Your body's not perfect. You better cover her up. And so I did for many, many years. But guess what? I've called her back. I've reclaimed her power, her beautiful body, which is, oh my God, transformed and changed just in the last month even. And yeah, Whitney Amber loves to dance. She can really get down by herself. But this version is going to learn and love getting down with a partner, with someone that she can move with, someone she can groove with. Do you feel me? Someone who also makes her feel liberated and loved and sensual and so sexy. And you know what, ladies? These are all parts of ourselves that we have to call back. We have to reclaim. And so I'll be the first to go. I'm claiming her. I'm calling back her power here in Mallorca, Spain. And we'll see what it brings. We'll see what it brings. So I think I want to leave this one thought and reflection moment before we leave of in reclaiming our most authentic version of ourselves. What are the parts of us that are true, that are truly ours, and what are the parts of ourselves that maybe aren't ours, that might belong to someone else, to an external source that has created this box that we're trying to fit in, that we don't want to fit in. For me, That was not using my voice. That was a million things, let's be honest. It was abandoning my love and joy for dance in fear of being too sensual and sexual. So I wonder, and that's just one example, friends. I have many. But I just wonder, what are the parts of you when you look in the mirror that ring true, that you want to keep? And what are the parts that maybe don't ring true? And where did they come from? And can we just take a moment to sit in that mirror naked and love those parts, but give them back to their respective owners? I think we can do that. And I think when we do that, we not only liberate ourselves, ladies, we liberate our mothers and their mothers and their mothers' mothers, our future daughters, our sisters. It's not just about us. It's that powerful. So if we can't find the space and the selfishness, which isn't selfish, but the self-love and compassion to release those parts of us that no longer resonate, that maybe weren't even ours to begin with, if we can't do it for ourselves, let's do it for our future daughters and our daughters, those of us who do have children. Let's do it for them. And for our mothers and their mothers who maybe didn't have the choice. Let's think bigger. Let's do it for us, and let's do it for them. Okay, so I have been talking a whole lot. I feel so energized just by releasing this part of myself, by getting to show up differently now, and by getting to reintroduce and or introduce myself. So thank you so much, friends, for trusting me with your time today and for joining this moment, this mirror, this movement of remembering. If something in this episode moved you or maybe sparked something within you, I would be so jazzed and honored if you'd share it. Maybe leave a review. Definitely invite a friend into the next conversation. And for now, we are actively building the Instagram page at The Mirrored Muse. So you can find us there. We're in our baby phases, so be compassionate and loving towards us for now. But you can head on over and start to follow us there on Instagram at The Mirrored Muse. And until next time, stay wild, stay soft, and never forget, you are the muse.